What a week it's been, huh? Starting off 2025. Probably not the best way, Firstly, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ajay Patel Show. My name is Ajay Patel, live from Los Angeles currently, and it is currently January 11th. And fires have been burning through LA since Tuesday, so whatever date that puts that on. And it's been quite a devastating scene here. I try not to get over dramatic about stuff, whether it's politics or, oh, this happened and this happened, oh, this natural disaster happened. But this is, I was putting off recording this because I wanted to find like a perfect way to capture the emotion, capture what I wanted to say. But then I realized, bro, you just procrastinating. You're over here watching that NFL game, so just get to it. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys being here with me. I apologize for the slight mess I have behind me, but for these next couple months while we're kind of storing all the stuff for the wedding, our house has turned into a warehouse. And as someone that gets antsy and really starts getting irritated fast when there's a lot of stuff, when there's a lot of mess, I'm showing growth. And that's what matters. I know I promised you guys last week that this episode would be the Hanali Shah episode, but I wanted to push that in light of all the shit that's happening here this week. These wildfires, these arsonist fires, whatever verbiage is supposed to be used for them. It's been insane, and I've had a lot of thoughts. I just wanted to come on here and share them with you guys, and just kind of talk about some other stuff to maybe lighten the mood, get my mind off of it, because I've been watching the news nonstop. And this is something I rarely do. Even during the election, I did not watch the news as much as I've watched it in the last 72 hours. And it is quite a scene. So for those that don't know, and you may be listening to this probably weeks after or whatever it may be, it started with the Pacific Palisades fire in Los Angeles. And the rumor has been it started with someone's barbecue that went wrong. And then next thing you know, the wind catches it. And it's become this monstrous fire that has burned down probably $10 billion worth of homes, in addition to businesses, schools, cars, livelihoods. And it is quite the scene here. So for those that don't know, I am in Culver City, and I am a decent distance away. So I'm probably about 12 miles away from the fire. Now, I understand that doesn't sound like a lot, especially for those that probably live in like Texas and whatnot, where it's like, 12 miles, I can go there in a heartbeat. But 12 miles is a decent distance. So this started on Tuesday with one fire. And then the next day I went to work on Wednesday, and a message had came in through the Teams chat where it was like, oh, with what's going on, make sure you guys take the time, this and that. And I didn't really think much of it, because when I heard that there was a wildfire, I assumed it was just like any other wildfire. It was, oh, okay, that's happening. They've dealt with this before, and they'll deal with it how they need to deal with it. If it's happened so many times before, I'm sure they know how to fight it, how to combat it, how to react to what's happening. All day I'm at work on Wednesday, and the texts start rolling in. Where people are just like, hey, are you all right? Like, are you guys good? Are you and Isha good? Like, is your home safe? Had you guys had to evacuate? And honestly, my first thought was just like, get off the news, people. Get off the news. Stop believing what you see on there. Everything here is fine. Like, stop overreacting. We're completely fine. You guys don't need to, be checking in on me like this. In addition to that, can you guys just go submit your RSVPs to the wedding and stop texting me about some nonsense you saw on the news? And then I get home Wednesday, and I turn the news on, and I'm, hearing more of the chatter, and it's like, and that's also when I started to see a lot of the social media content, where I started seeing, the clips from, like, people would be taking clips from a plane ride, or people's were posting when they were live from Pacific Palisades, or then what happened to have started is a fire in Hollywood Hills. That's when I realized, oh shit, this is a legitimately big deal. This is happening not too far away from me. And then on Wednesday night, this is something like, those like certain memories that get scarred into you for, not scarred into you, but you remember where it's like, this is a surreal moment that I'm having right now. Something where I kind of like drew that same feeling was when you're watching that eclipse that happened recently. I don't want to mess up the verbiage as far as solar or lunar, but everyone was outside. You had to get the special glasses and you see this overlap happen, and it's, total darkness for, a little bit of a moment. And you realize, oh shit, I am nothing. I am nothing. All those times I'm stressing about doing this, doing that, making sure I have, all these things correct with my life. And you realize I am quite literally an ant on this giant ass planet. Coming back to Wednesday night where we go to the rooftop. And you see people kind of sit. You see a couple people sitting inside and a couple people standing outside with their phones out. And holy shit. From our rooftop, you could see the Hollywood Hills, that fire going, which is about 6 miles from me. Down, more towards the northwest side, along the coast, you can see all the fire from the Pacific Palisades fire. That's roaring. And at the same time, for the Hollywood Hills one, you see all these helicopters coming in one by one, trying to do these water drops and retrieve back to Hollywood Lake, get more water and repeat. Now, the Hollywood Hills one was... Actually, no, let's not get into like dissecting how big these fires were for a second, but the feeling of, holy shit, this city is literally on fire, bro. And what's made this catastrophe kind of like tenfold is this ridiculous amount of wind, apparently. Now, I'm someone that's only lived in California for 2 years, a novice, right? Like, that's nothing. And then people telling me at work the next day where it's like, I've lived here all my life and something like this has never happened. Not this close to the city. We've had wildfires, right? We've had a couple, like maybe one or two instances, and we're actually going to reference it later, which happened in maybe like 2018, where there's this giant wildfire outbreak. And from what I've consumed on the news and whatnot, I thought the same thing, where it's like, oh, they just deal with fires. But I never realized that it had never gotten this close to the city. So I'm standing on this rooftop looking at this fire burn down the Hollywood Hills, all those homes up there. Another fire on the left, to the left of it. That is just a massive cloud of smoke. I can't even describe it. And then the idea comes into our head where it's like, do we need to be worried? Because you're not worried until it's at your front door, right? Whether it's like a tornado, a hurricane. You're not worried until it's a threat to you. And that thought kind of threw me for a loop, where it's like, what an insane life in Los Angeles. You go to work, you bust your ass, you wake up maybe 4, 5, 6 a.m., spend an hour in traffic, go to work, bust your ass, maybe have some subpar lunch, come home, spend maybe an hour, 2 hours in traffic, have some dinner, make sure you go work out. You get back home, okay, you got something else to do? Maybe you got some kids to watch. Maybe you're doing some wedding planning. Maybe you have some more work to do. And all of this, right, at the same time, while that paycheck that you got coming in, 50% of it is taken away from you for taxes. All while you look up and the city you live in is on fire, bro. Fire. The word cathartic What does cathartic even mean? I just want to use it. But it's quite a cathartic feeling seeing these fires quite literally take their own form. Because I'm staring at these fires, right? I'm staring at the Hollywood Hills fire. I'm staring at the Pacific Palisades fire. And it's like, what the fuck are they even supposed to do? What are they even supposed to do about this? Because it's one thing when you do a water drop, right? Water doesn't really put out fire. It's the when you can get enough water to just slap the entire base of fire that you put a fire out. But when it's that large and wind is carrying it at almost like hurricane level wind speeds, and it's moving this fire at a rate that you can't keep up with it. It's burning down houses. It's moving to cars. It's moving to the next house. It's moving to the next house. It's moving down the hills. Embers shooting off into miles in the distance and starting a fire that your people aren't even focused on. How do you even keep up with any of this? And something in my head where I was just like, I told y'all this is the greatest country in the world, but something's up. Something is up. What if this is part of all that stuff that's happening? What if this is connected to the NOLA terrorist? What if this is connected to the Tesla bomb? Conspiracies start popping up in your head. Conspiracies start popping up in your head where it's like, is someone starting these? These fires are so far apart from each other. How in the world are they growing this massively and at the same time? People want to blame global warming. I don't share that sentiment. Like, I understand, right? The global warming is real. I agree. Don't relax, before you turn this podcast off. I agree global warming is real. But something like this seems insane to me. And it's still going on while I'm recording. This shit is still happening. That night on Wednesday when I fell asleep, I woke up every 2 hours just to check the Watch Duty app. Just to be like, if this passes down Hollywood Hills and maybe makes it to Beverly Boulevard, we need to get the fuck out. Imagine you wake up and the fire is a couple of miles away from you. It's a terrifying feeling. The conspiracy theories kept revolving where it's just like, even if someone were to start these fires, right? How do you time something like this amount of wind? I understand you can listen to like the news and be like, oh, there's going to be a lot of wind tomorrow. Let's do this and this. But this is next level, bro. And I do think we're at this weird area now, a couple days later, that there are a bunch of people out there starting some fires. Probably not as big as the one that's happening now in the Pacific Palisades, but people have even caught someone that may be responsible for the Eaton fire. And it's insane to me, bro. Like, I don't understand people. I just don't get it. And it's been quite a devastating feeling. As someone that's only lived here 2 years, I have preached like, yo, this state of California is failing its people left and right. It is a beautiful state. It's a beautiful coast. It's the place to be. Hollywood is right there. They make the movies. They make the movies that you see on the big screens. All the influencers you follow, they live here. Everything happens in LA. And then you go north. San Francisco, probably one of the most beautiful cities I've ever been to. Truly. America and not America. And the state of California has just been a disgrace, bro. I've talked to y'all about the homelessness. I've talked to y'all about the price. And now there's this factor where I never witnessed it for myself. And it truly does sadden me to see this, where it's one thing if a hurricane hits your city, and you got to strap up the windows. You got to bolt the door shut a little bit more. Maybe you have some car damage. Maybe it hails on the roof. Maybe a window breaks. when your house burns down, what do you even do from there? Your home, your largest financial asset that you own, burns down. How do you even calculate, oh, this is what I'm going to do next? And then maybe that's what I meant by this word cathartic. And I'll look it up after the podcast, and we may have to put something in the show notes where I was just using it completely wrong. But when the shit burns down, there's nothing left, bro. Nothing left. And that made me have this idea of, okay, like if the fire were to come into this apartment, right, or get to this place, what would I grab? What would I put in my backpack? What would I make sure I can pack in a small suitcase before I hit the road and evacuate? And it's not much. It's not much, right? You grab your electronics, grab your phone, your charger, a couple clothes for the week, and then you'd get out. For the people that got caught off guard, people that weren't even home, people that were in these houses for 20 plus years. And a lot of people have this, notion that, oh, people that lived in those houses are rich, they'll be fine. Firstly, it doesn't matter. The whole money thing shouldn't even be part of this conversation. If someone's house burns down, that's still shit. That's still something to feel sad about. That's still something to have some type of empathy for. What I think people don't realize is how many people just get grandfathered into these houses because they've lived in California for so long. If someone bought a house here 25 years ago, 50 years ago, that house wasn't $1 billion. They probably bought it for $30,000. They probably didn't work. They probably didn't have to continue working after their house appreciated in value like that. And then just like that, in a moment's notice, that shit burns down. It has been, and I'm just gonna be honest with y'all, where it's like, it has made me feel a connection to this city that I did not think I had. Like I just said, I always preach about how much this state has failed its people. How much this state has failed its people. And something I try to do personally is not play victim to anything, right? If it's like, oh, politics does this, and so that's why my life is this and that. I try not to be that person. I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying I never fall into that. But it's something I try to focus on. And so while I'm watching these fires burn people's houses down, burn land by the minute, there were times that I would open the Watch Duty app and see a fire start at 1 acre. A couple hours later, maybe half a day later, open it up and it's at 1,000 acres. Uncontrollable, right? Uncontrollable spread. And you would see it on the news that they show the 0% containment. And it's like, holy shit. During all of this, I felt so useless. Useless. Like, how do I help these people? What am I supposed to do in my power right now to help these people? I understand there will be first responders. There will be, there's agencies for this stuff, whether it's the firefighters, whether it's the government, police, whatever it is. I understand there's those things in place for that. But in something like this that is so large, I really don't expect the firefighters, the police, all of these agencies to be able to keep up with something like this. To a certain extent. We're going to get into the blame game in a second. But at some point, whatever that quote is from RFK or whoever it was, JFK? What can you do for your country? What can you do in the service of others? And I've always been that person where it's just like, how can I serve the people? And if everyone does this, right? If everyone helps the next person out, you have somewhat of a decent community, a decent city, decent state. And I'm watching the news, seeing all these cars drive south away from the fires, cutting through the city. I would look out the window and I would see all the traffic headed towards like the Orange County area. And like I keep saying, this feeling of uselessness. I feel so useless. And what happened to, like, I imagine a movie of someone's bar catches on fire and everyone grabs buckets of water and throws it onto this bar and tries to help mitigate the situation. Where is that? Like, how can we band together as a people to fight something like this? And then the thought comes back, the thought grows, evolves, and I realize, oh shit, this is something that's just an absolute beast. This thing cannot be contained. This thing is out of the power of the common people. And I would see these things on the news, and they were live on the street, and people would come out and be like, yeah, we're going from yard to yard, taking a shovel, and anytime some ember falls onto someone's yard, we're dousing it out as fast as we can. And shit like that made me feel so good, where it's like, that's how it should be. Like I would love to, if God forbid, right, that fire ever came this close, and I was in a single family home, and I had neighbors, and ember is shooting left and right and lands in someone's yard. How can I help? I understand it's not my house, not my problem, quote unquote. But why does it have to be like that? You should, like, this idea of how can I help, I think is what everyone should hold true. And at some points when I see, the news, the way people are on social media, this and that, even how people are in public, sometimes that feeling fleets from my head where I'm just like, this doesn't exist anymore. Then I see stuff like this on the news, and it restores that faith. It restores that faith where it's like, thank God some people still have it. Some people still have this idea of, let's help the next person. Let's protect our community. It's a terrifying feeling. I have people moving into the building that we live in that have been displaced by the fire. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to them or anything like that, because obviously you're just trying to respect boundaries and whatnot, but it makes sense. Your house just burned down. Who knows if that insurance piece is going to cover a bit of it. Everyone's talking about the State Farm dropping the fire coverage 3 months prior to this event occurring. First of all, what kind of timing? And that's something that's been happening in more and more areas. Whether it's Malibu, some other areas that I can't remember that I read on. All of this stuff's happening. And these people will be without their homes for an indefinite amount of time. So I can completely understand why they're just like, all right, you know what? We're just going to sign this apartment. We're going to sign this 2-bedroom apartment. Maybe it's close to work. Grab some mattresses from Target. Just go buy this, go buy that, and just set up this new home. And I can't even fathom that right now. Your home burning down. And you have to keep it moving, right? At the end of the day, it's like, okay, now what? You cannot count on the government. You cannot, you should be able to, right? But you can't count on these agencies to bail you out, to help you in this desperate time of need. It's tough. What do? Now let's get into more of the finger pointing of it all. California. Whatever's happened to SF, that's already insane, right? And now in Los Angeles, where you realize what the problems are. And this is something I've tried to preach quite a bit. I'm not saying, oh, I told you so or anything like that. It's just some of this shit does not matter. Some of this shit does not matter. And when things like this happen, people's eyes finally open to, oh shit, why wasn't this an area of focus? For the leaders that we elected, for the leaders that we voted on, why was this not an area of focus for them? We're the common everyday people. We're just trying to, make it to tomorrow. We're going to work, trying to have a family, trying to raise a family. Our everyday thought isn't, okay, what if a wildfire were to start? Now, I'm going to shit on the California officials quite a bit in this episode, so I'll try to dial it back a little bit. But, in a previous episode, I criticized Gavin Newsom on, like the nonsense of your kids can identify with whatever gender they like in school, and the teachers won't have to tell the parents. California in general is very like that. It's very fluid. Oh, do what you want. Oh, yeah, you want to do that? Cool. You want to identify like that? Cool. You want to dress like that? Cool. You want to just rob that place and not face any consequence? Cool. Do it. Do it. It's California. We're cool. We're hip. We're Democrat. We're young. We're cool. And then people reach a boiling point. Only recently, where California started having these repercussions to crime, right? You go into a store, you steal something. Now there's actually a crime tied to it. Whereas before, you could just open season this shit. And a lot of people are placing blame on this, and this idea of DEI, diversity, and what the hell did I inclusion, diversity, equity, and inclusion. DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. This idea that DEI is what ruined the LA fire department, and that is why they are unable to keep up with the fires. I am not completely on board with that. I will say that apparently, from reading the person's background, that is the fire chief, she's apparently a female lesbian, and she performed at the level she needed to perform to be the chief. So why would I, why would I blame that person if she was the most qualified person for the job? It doesn't make sense. Now let's focus on this idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion for a little bit. If you are a public sector job, if your job is to protect people, whether it be from crime, natural disasters, you're a doctor, this should not apply to those jobs. This shouldn't apply to those jobs. I do think DEI is an important thing, right? Maybe you work at a tech company. You work at a tech company and the team is 7 dudes. The team is 7 dudes, and a lot of the female employees are feeling some type of way where it's like, why is it just 7 dudes as leaders or whatever it may be? This isn't a great example. Let me start this example over. Let's say you're at a tech company. Let's say you're at a tech company and you're just hiring, right? And your team is all one specific color. Let's say your team is all brown, right? You have a bunch of Indian people, or you have a bunch of white people. And you're like, you know what? We really need to get a female on this team. We really need to get maybe a male on this team. Maybe we need to get an Asian person on this team. And you interview all these candidates, and maybe you find that Asian or that female or that male that isn't the best candidate, right? Maybe they're the 3rd best candidate. But you want to check a box that says, okay, you know what? I diversified the team. And this person will learn on the job. This person will just have to train up a little bit. Then yes, I think that is necessary. I do think bodies of tech, other jobs where people's lives are not on the line, this should be a little bit of a priority. It makes sense. But when it comes to stuff like the police department, firefighters, doctors, it doesn't matter. Can you do the job? And can you do the job better than the next person? That's the only thing I feel like should be a prioritizing factor in any of this. So we get that piece out of the way. I don't blame the fire chief, because at the end of the day, they're working with what the hell they got. They're working under the confines of California governing body. They're working under the confines of empty fire hydrants, lack of resources, a cut in funding. So let's talk about the funding piece for a bit, because this is pretty eye-opening. I pulled this from ChatGPT. In 2024, the fiscal year, the city of LA managed a budget of approximately $12.8 billion, reflecting a 2% decrease from the previous year's budget of $13.1 billion. Key allocations. Public safety, LAFD. The LAFD's budget was reduced by $17.6 million, bringing it to $819.6 million from the previous years. Let's not worry about the actual amounts, but let's focus on the delta. Was reduced by $17.6 million. The LAPD saw an increase of $126 million. The city allocated $1.3 billion to address homelessness. Through reports indicate that nearly half of these funds went unspent. These idiots are ruining this state, if not already have ruined this state. I mentioned my sense of pride for this city now. And it's because it's just like, I do live here. I do live here. I do want to protect where I live. I do want other people where I live to thrive, to be able to live a life that they want. To not be dealing with catastrophes like this. How can I provide for the city that I live in? I didn't realize that I had this type of pride until something like this happens. Now, don't get me wrong. I am going to get the fuck out of here. I can't stay. This place has been ruined by the dumbest people in the world. And political agendas and this massive mind virus has gotten to a place where it'll take way too long to revert. And how much more shit happens before that full, the full makeover happens. They're trying to combat homelessness. Brother, they're not doing shit. They're not doing shit. I've been here for 2 years, and I've seen the same amount of homeless people, if not more homeless people, month to month. You want to combat homelessness? Bro, take those empty high rises that you have downtown that people have been graffitiing all over and just let them in there. Bro, it doesn't matter. The building is abandoned. Throw them in there. There's no system in place. There's nothing in place to make me believe that this place is trying, that this city is trying, that their government officials are trying. And then something like this happens, and it takes a catastrophe like this for the celebrities to open their eyes to, oh shit, you know what? You motherfuckers suck. You guys are. This isn't a Democrat and Republican thing. This is literally, these people are criminals, bro. These people are criminals. I'm not trying to bash on the democratic values and be all Republican hat in here. These people are criminals, bro. They take all this tax dollars and don't do shit with it productive. What have they done? And now you got these people working 5 days straight on trying to combat the wildest fire that has ever existed in the city of Los Angeles. That has ever existed. Ever, bro. 2025, ever. Living through history of witnessing the city that you live in burn down. It is insane to me. So focusing on where the blame goes. Obviously, we don't exactly know how this shit started. A lot of the blame I put, and people have been referencing these clips from Joe Rogan's podcast or, a previous Trump interview where a lot of it has to do with the dead trees or the dead leaves, all this stuff that could be cleaned up to at least minimize the spread of fire, minimize the spread of a wildfire if it were to happen anywhere. And I was listening to the All In podcast, and they were talking about this quite a bit. And what I didn't realize is that individual homes have to do these things, right? They have to clean up the old trees in their yard. They have to clean up the yard, all that stuff, to make sure it's decent, upkept. But the government has not been doing the same. In addition to that, there's no system in place to make sure that if a fire were to reach a neighborhood, how can that neighborhood be protected? Whether it's, the roofing material, what the house is made out of. Some places have had like these sprinkler systems on the roof installed, but that doesn't exist here. And it sucks because they're going off of bad data. Oh, it hasn't happened in 2 years. We're fine. It hasn't happened in 2 years, therefore it probably won't happen. We've been seeing hurricanes like no other. We saw what happened in Florida and South Carolina area earlier this year, or later in 2024. We saw the wildfires that hit Hawaii. All the hurricanes that have been happening and earthquakes. And so why not prepare for the natural disasters that are to come, that are happening? We know LA is prone to being a place very dry. That's why there's no bugs here. The place is dry as shit. You go to Houston, it's moist as fuck. There's bugs everywhere. You go to a restaurant, you're sitting down with a bug. Here, dry. Dry as can be. Anytime I have friends come over, I have to turn on a humidifier, or else they'll literally die overnight. They'll literally die. While I'm talking right now, I might have to turn on another humidifier, take a sip of water. It is that dry in LA. You know this place is prone to getting caught on fire. These people are thieves, man. I don't want to keep on harping on it because it's just like, I don't even know how to get someone to understand how bad it is. And I went from the job that I have now, previously being Texas employed, right? I'm paying those taxes. It's not as much. Then you're paying Cali taxes and you expect something. You expect something. I told y'all that scenario earlier where you go to work, you bust your ass. All right, you know what? 50% of my paycheck, go ahead. I think you guys will do the right thing. And they don't do shit. These people are criminals, bro. And they focus on such nonsense. They want to focus on, oh, you know what? You can identify however you want. Oh, you know what? We should do this. Oh, you know what? We're going to combat homelessness. You know what? We have the Olympics coming. We have the NBA All-Star coming. You know what? We might have the Super Bowl here too. And at the same time, you can't stop something like this from happening. And it's still happening. That's the part that blows my mind, is while I'm recording this fire has spread even more. The Hollywood Hills fire, luckily, was put out probably by like Friday-ish, 48 hours after. The air quality itself has been so bad. Being outside here is the thing you sign up for, the thing that you pay the taxes for. And you can't even do that now. What does the aftermath of all of this look like? These people are crooks, bro. And I understand some of y'all, gave me some Luigi jokes where it's like, you see what I'm saying? You see why Luigi had to do what he had to do and kill that CEO? And I want to repeat on this podcast, we don't condone violence like that. We don't condone violence like that. We condone violence, but not like that. For example, if you see someone starting a fire, beat the dog shit out of them. Beat the dog shit out of them. If you see someone breaking into your store and the policy is, well, you're supposed to just let them go, beat the dog shit out of them. Someone ding dong ditches you, beat the dog shit out of them. I'm not saying shoot them, But you should beat them to the point where it's like, you know what? Maybe I rather would have gotten shot. That is how we condone violence. It's insane, man. You got the whole insurance angle. You got the California governing body angle. What's next? Like, fuck, I don't even know what happens after this. How do I bring this to a close here? I am all right. Myself and Isha are safe. We appreciate everyone that has checked in on us. And I apologize if I did not respond to you because I didn't understand the severity of the situation. And then I understood it a little too much. And it's dry January, so I'm consuming all of this while being sober. And so just if you are in the LA area, one, my home is open to you. If you need somewhere to stay, if you know more evacuation things happen in different areas, please feel free to reach out and we will find something. We'll find whatever we need to get you situated financially, food, whatever it is. And I really do want to extend my effort and support out like that, because something like this is really tough, and God forbid I ever have to go through it. I should actually call my dad and ask him about this. This actually happened to my dad and my mom when my sister was probably like 4 years old. Their motel burned down. And, you know, they didn't have much money. How do you wrap your head around that? Where do you go from next? And so if you're dealing with this, please, 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 please feel free to hit me up. However I can help, I'll try. I will try to add some links in the show notes where you can donate and whatnot. I'm awaiting the end of this so then I can try to figure out how to be hands-on, because as you guys know, I really hate donating the links, especially if I don't know who's on the other side of the link. Something I'm trying to get more comfortable with, but I'm trying to figure out how to be more hands-on with the situation during the aftermath. How do we help rebuild these homes? How do we help? Where do I help? You know, apparently these homes are, $7 million homes. They burn down. It's going to cost $10 million to put them back up. Who's going to do that? Is that even worth it? Are these homes just going to turn into like a public park at this point? What happens? So all that being said, link in the show notes. I will try to, continue giving the updates as they happen, and let's move on to our next topic. The TikTok ban is finally here. January 19th, apparently word on the street is TikTok will be banned in America. I'm down, bro. I'm down. I don't even care. Like, it served its purpose. It was really cool. 2020, having that and COVID happening at the same time. It was a good time. But now I'm at the point where I'm sitting on there and I don't even feel anything. I'm not laughing. I'm not learning anything. I go on there to be like, how do I make deviled eggs? How do I make hummus? That's all I'm using it for. Anytime I catch myself what's it called? Doom scrolling. I'm just like, bro, get this off my phone. And also, why don't I have just the wherewithal to be like, delete? But now, with them deleting it, I'm eating that shit up. Spending maybe 2 hours a day on that thing. Delete it, bro. Get it off my phone. And I do think a lot of people feel like this, where it's like, good. Help me out. Finally, the government helped me out. Get this thing off my phone. It's too addicting. It knows me way too damn well. The algorithm is better than any Instagram, YouTube Shorts thing out there. Get this thing off my phone. I'm super excited for it. I told you guys, like, as far as regarding the podcast, I've barely been posting shit on there. I've barely been posting in general, but TikTok has always been one of those things where, because of the lack of success I saw on there, I just kind of stepped away from it. And now, what a thing. It'll be banned in America. So then when you go on vacation to like another country, whether it's Mexico, Asia, some parts of Asia, you'll be able to use it. And that's pretty cool. Speaking of social media, you have Facebook ending its content moderation. Now, this has been a big topic as far as should social media sites moderate content. A big thing happened with Elon Musk when he took over X and, showed all these Twitter files as far as what was being covered up, what agendas were being pushed. And I actually learned a lot from listening to this recent Joe Rogan podcast with Mark Zuckerberg, the guy himself, where he talks about his experience throughout COVID and where the Biden administration would reach out to his team and tell them to remove content that wasn't even false, such as, hey, the vaccine may have side effects. Something as simple as that. The Biden administration would call his team and yell whatever it may be and demand that they take it down. And then they got to a point where they didn't. They put them through this legal hell left and right. And then it's like, I don't know what side I'm on. Because as much as I don't want a bunch of fake news out there, I understand where these big corporations can easily get tied up with certain political agendas, with agendas in general. Right? Facebook has already turned into this Meta in general has turned into this beast where you turn it on and there's ads left and right. They're the new news. And while I was listening to this dude talk, I'm just like, he never intended for this thing to grow to this point. You develop this social network while you're this geek in college. You have some success. It makes you cool. You make some money off of it. Then you start making more money off of it. Okay, you know what? We're going to evolve a little bit like this. All right, you know what? Now I can start doing ads, make some more money off of it. Oh shit, now I'm one of the richest people in the world. The angle that really throws me for a loop is that you become the news. Facebook, Instagram, you become the news. People go there to consume what's happening in the world. People aren't watching the news anymore unless it's stuff like this. Oh shit, I need to make sure I keep an eye on where the storm is. I need to keep an eye on what's happening with the election. Even then, a lot of that has moved over to social media sites. And that was never supposed to happen, right? They were never supposed to be the source of truth. And so with this content moderation thing ending, it is a little like, oh shit, my dad's going to be texting me some wild stuff that he read off Facebook. But they've introduced the same thing that I think these other platforms have with these community notes, where if I say the sky is green, other people in the community can comment on that and say, you know what? No, you're wrong because of X, Y, and Z. They can rate the thing that you said on a truth scale. And so then it's like, okay, this has been verified. This has been vetted. Oh, this is completely false. But then you leave the truth in the public's hands. And how much more safer is that? And so this is something I still don't know how I feel about at all. Like who owns the facts? Who is where can you go to read factual information? Even during this wildfire stuff, there's a picture going around with the Hollywood sign on fire. The Hollywood sign is perfectly fine still. But people create these things where it's like, this is going to get clicks. This is going to get clicks. And if I get clicks, I get money. And that's all that matters to them. And I get it. Sometimes the podcast does the same thing. I get it. But I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think. Maybe comment some random shit. And let's see how it goes. I think, sorry, I know I keep saying I think, but it's just, excuse me. I do think that shit has turned into a beast that it never was supposed to. And it'd be one thing to be like, oh, the government should get involved. But in these recent years, we've kind of figured out, oh shit, They're not that smart. These government people aren't that smart. Why the hell would I listen to them? Sure, they may know the bigger picture that's happening, or they may know more angles, but they don't have my best interests at heart. And I'm really excited for this next generation of people where they've done this amazing job at unveiling the hoax. My generation, I think we kind of just went with it. You know, okay, George Bush is the president. Okay, that's what happened. Okay, now, okay, yeah, I'm going to vote for Obama. Okay, now let's keep it going. We never really stopped to be like, hey, is all of this a lie? You know, is this war on terror just a cover up for something else? Do we actually need to be in Iraq? This new generation has done an amazing job at being like, look at these dumbasses that run California. What should we do about them? You know, don't get me wrong. They've also started a bunch of fucking nonsense shit. But they've done an amazing job at this. And I'm really excited for, like, you know, the energy that these dudes have. Because, look, I understand I'm upset about this right now. And I do want to help rebuild. But I don't know how involved I'm going to get in dethroning the people that are in government bodies. If there's a forum to vote, yeah, sure, I'll try to do that. But I'm not going to any rallies. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm not going to stand in front of Capitol Hill with the sign. I'm not posting stuff on my Instagram. I'm just not going to do it. But I'm happy to be a passenger in this car. And what's crazy is at some point you do think like, should I just start driving this bitch? Being a passenger hasn't worked out the greatest so far. So should I just take over? But that's something I'm still trying to evaluate on like a more personal basis. You know what I'm saying? To my last topic. Royalty in the building. Meghan Markle. She's Rachel from Suits, as many of us know her. Obviously, we know her story. She married into the royal family. She was like, hey, they don't like black people. She took the son out of the royal family. They moved into some nonsense place, probably here in California. Started some dumbass Netflix documentary. And now they're getting divorced. And now she's starting some more nonsense, where she's basically trying to be Martha Stewart. And here, my final announcement for the podcast. Not everyone needs to be Martha Stewart. There's two ladies I love when it comes to this cooking and decorating shit. It's Martha Stewart and the Pioneer Woman. If you don't know who I'm talking about, go check her out. She be making some mean shit. But that's it. But for everyone to have a TV show, obviously we saw Selena Gomez do it. She's turned it into a illustrious career. I don't know how. But she kind of played off this whole like, oh, I don't even know how to cook. And so it's like, oh, nice. You know, like you kind of serve to the people that are like, hey, I don't really know what I'm doing in the kitchen, but I want to learn something. Then you got Meghan Markle showing like, oh, you know what? This is how you make the most beautiful basket, this and that. And it's like, weren't you just in the royal family? Oh, how you have fallen, my boy. Oh, how you have fallen. Also, how did you get a guy? Now, before anything gets mistaken, I love Yellowbone. Yellowbone. If I didn't marry an Indian girl, Yellowbone was next on the list. I don't know what it is, but it's probably just the same, you know, the brown skin tone, and it's just beauty walking. And we all fell in love with Rachel on Suits. We still liked her when she went into royalty, and then she started acting up. Oh, the queen's racist. Yeah, the bitch is 120 years old. She probably had some slaves. And now she's got this bitch talking to her, telling, you should include me. Shut the fuck up. And then they leave. They started wilding out a bit. I do love Meghan Markle, but man, how this career has turned. And I'm not saying like, oh, she should just give up. But they have Suits LA filming. Hop in that. We could use a little return to TV. We don't need you building charcuterie boards. We don't need you showing us how to do a garden. Sometimes, just stay off of Netflix. But I'm talking shit. I probably do the same thing. Shit. This year, I'm trying to do a little cooking book for my mom. That's the same Martha Stewart shit. But I just wanted to hate on Meghan Markle a little just to close out the podcast. Even though I love her, shout out Yellow Bones, listen to the podcast. I don't think we have any that listen to the podcast, but maybe this will invite some. Ladies and gentlemen, with all that being said, my name has been Ajay Patel as always. I appreciate you guys. For those that live in LA, keep your head up like your nose is bleeding. I'll see you guys next week. Next week, we will have Hanali Shah. And goodbye.